Guar gum is a food additive that is commonly used to emulsify, thicken, and stabilize food products. It is used in a variety of foods, including beverages, processed cheese, dairy products, baked products, and salad dressings. In frozen products, guar gum is intended to control ice crystallization by forming strong hydrogen bonds with water. Guar gum in ice cream and sorbets, like what I'll be making today, and other frozen products, is intended to prevent a grainy and undesirable food texture. In previous reports, scientists indicate that guar gum should be used at a concentration of 0.3% to obtain the desired texture. From my research, it appears that consumers have a positive attitude about the usage of guar gum. Following experiment, a standard strawberry banana sorbet is going to be made and compared to a strawberry banana sorbet recipe containing 0.3% guar gum. I chose this percentage because that was what was recommended by scientists to create a frozen product that's most desirable. In this experiment, it was hypothesized that the recipe containing guar gum would have a higher rating for texture. There would be no difference in sweetness among the samples, as guar gum is not intended to enhance sweetness. And because of the predicted textural differences in the samples, the guar gum sample would be preferred among participants. In order to create these recipes, I found a very simple strawberry banana sorbet recipe online, and I modified it slightly. So in this recipe, you'll need 2 medium bananas, approximately 118 grams each, 4 cups of whole frozen strawberries, also 4 tablespoons of water, vanilla extract, an electric scale, guar gum, cutting board and knife, and a blender, and 2 freezer-safe bowls. You'll also freeze this stuff, so you'll need an ice cream scoop following. If you are serving these to your participants, you'll need little cups for them to sample them in, and then of course a device with internet access to Purdue Qualtrics survey. For each of these recipes, you'll want to create basically this control recipe, and then you'll add the guar gum to the guar gum sample. So for the control recipe, you'll take one of these bananas and you'll weigh it. You should choose a banana that's approximately 118 grams, since you'll be doing 0.3% of the guar gum weight. So we're just going to weigh this banana. And I've got it at exactly 118 grams. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to slice this up so that my pizzas are around a ½ inch thick, and then I'm going to put them on something that's freezer friendly, and I'm going to freeze them for a few hours to help with the texture of my frozen product. So I've got my banana sliced up here. It is recommended to use frozen strawberries already, just to save yourself some time, but of course, if strawberries are in season, you can use fresh strawberries and then freeze them, same as the bananas. So I'm going to freeze this for a few hours and then come back to it. And once it's all frozen, then we'll combine all the ingredients, blend it up, and then we'll freeze it again for a few hours, and then it'll be ready. The next step in this recipe is to weigh out 144 grams, or about 1 cup of whole frozen strawberries. So I've got my bowl on here zeroed out already. I'm just going to add my strawberries. My bananas are frozen and ready to use, and I'm at 144 grams here in this bowl. So the next thing I'm going to do is just add everything to this blender cup. My bananas. The recipe also calls for 2 tablespoons of water. It originally called for milk, but we swapped that out for water because milk does have some emulsifying agents that we didn't want to interfere with the recipe. So I've got 2 tablespoons of water here, and then a teaspoon of vanilla. And the next thing is just to blend this until it's creamy. And the only difference going to be in the guar gum sample is to add 0.3 grams 0.3% of guar gum, and so when I did the math originally, that meant that I would be adding about 1.31 grams for the total recipe. So I've got my guar gum here, and I'm just going to go ahead and measure out that. And then I'm going to add it and blend it. So I just finished blending my strawberry banana sorbet recipe, and it looks really yummy. The recipe does suggest that you should freeze it for 3 hours, but it is definitely frozen enough that you could eat it now. It's not really going to come out of this unless you scoop it out. So if you desire, you can freeze it for 3 hours and then come back and sample it. When I originally made this, some of my participants were not able to all come at the same time, and so they sampled it right away. And then other people, I froze it and took it out to thaw for them to sample it. But as you can see, it's a really nice texture here. And so the next step in this is having my participants rate on a line intensity scale the texture, liking, the sweetness, and then their overall preference of the control and the guar gum sample. And then I used that data downloaded from Qualtrics on Excel, and I completed a paired t-test and a preference test from the samples, and I'll be showing that next. The following table depicts a summary of the data that was used to determine if there were rating differences in the sweetness or texture and the overall preference rating. So that data was then used to complete a paired t-test and a preference test. This graph is looking at the texture rating of the strawberry banana sorbet made with guar gum versus the control. On the right, we've got the legend. The blue is the control and the red is the guar gum. Participants rated the texture from dislike a great deal to like a great deal on a line intensity scale of 0 to 100. The paired t-test p-value indicates that participants did not prefer one texture of sample over the other. This graph is looking at the sweetness intensity of the two samples, and surprisingly with this we found that participants rated the control sample as significantly sweeter than the guar gum sample. This was surprising because we hypothesized that there would be no difference in sweetness intensity among the two samples. Finally, we asked participants to rate the overall preference of the two samples, and we found that participants did not prefer one sample over another. Again, this was surprising because we expected that participants would rate the texture of the guar gum sample higher and thus would also prefer the guar gum sample. In conclusion, the findings from this experiment suggest that guar gum might not have statistical support as a stabilizer to improve texture, liking, or preference of sorbet.